Okay. You are listening to the Gamer Librarian Podcast, the best podcast you can find on this side of the multiverse. I'm your host, Adrian, and today we have a massive amount of gaming news to talk about. I mean, it is insane to think that this is where we are, you know. I think looking back on 2013, 2014, when the PS4 and the Xbox One system cycle was just beginning, and there were these game developer buyouts. Like there was a massive push from Microsoft mostly to buy up developer studios. And Sony played their hand a little bit into some of that. And it went on until the late 2022 or 3 time, like right after COVID, big massive shift in gaming that we've seen. And I think that we are still feeling the effects of that because I think that it's these companies that buy these developing studios, these developers, these game creators, and they don't know what to do with them. And I think that's horrendous that you buy not just the companies, but like you get all these people, the talent, and you don't just know what to do with them. You don't even place them anywhere. I think it's despicable. I mean, before we get into big topics, like just to preface what we've had the few years here in gaming is, you know, Xbox buys studios like the Redfall developer. They made Dishonored, right? And they gave them a little bit of time to shine and make their own game, and it didn't go well. It was kind of like a service game. Didn't didn't do well enough to continue that developer. They were axed. That game is probably still on Game Pass as well. And when you think about that, it's insane to say that like that is the degree that we should be looking forward to is the companies like Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, they buy these companies, right? Whether these companies are brand new or they're legacy holders, they buy them out and they do like one or two things with them. The like don't do anything with their catalog or they make them make a new game. And that new game is never what anybody really wants. That seems to be the case here still. I mean, we are still feeling the effects of all of these company buyouts now, and there's almost no games to show for it, which even is more proof that they don't know what to do with the talent that they buy. I mean, Bethesda is one of them, right? We haven't even seen anything regarding Elder Scrolls. There really just hasn't even been much of a push with the Bethesda remakes besides Oblivion. But I've said it here about remakes, right? Regarding remakes, there's Sony announcing the trilogy remake for God of War on top of laying off Blue Point, which to me is incredibly insane because the rumors and those rumors were apparently solidified on Blue Point was making a live service God of War multiplayer game. I mean, what the fuck? Like who makes the remaster company make a whole new game and then that game gets canned and you blame them and then they get axed? That's horrendous. That's absolutely horrible. Going off of those announcements and what we've seen these last few years, it literally seems like Sony doesn't have any idea how to manage their current properties unless they are like a Marvel property, which is super insane. That is the only thing they can even manage to get out correctly is few Marvel titles, and that's maybe it, right? I mean, the Marvel fighting game isn't even out yet. We haven't seen anything on that like Black Panther, Captain America game, I think was pushed, or just a Black Panther game. I think even a Blade game was pushed. Like all these Marvel products, they need to just go. The Spider-Man games, obviously, they did very well, but there's the Wolverine game, which we saw nothing of in the state of play. And you're telling us that your big state of play starting off this year was to announce a remake trilogy when you're laying off the studios. I think that is so despicable. Not just the laying off of Blue Point, which is a massive, massive disappointment for people who are hoping for things to come back like Bloodborne or anything else. I mean, I think that if you're laying off the teams that are doing your remakes, your ports, and whatever, what does that say for the teams that are making the actual games? Because you're definitely not moving these people onto those projects. Why isn't the Blue Point team just like usurped onto the God of War team? Like clearly you're gonna need help with that. It would definitely make it come out sooner because you already have this staff. I mean, like what the actual fuck? So like whatever's happening over there is horrendous. Xbox though, I mean, I think we've already seen where they're going when it comes to what kind of products and games that they're making. They're making products that have a game catalog. They just want to make, the PCs or whatever online service. They just want that. Who knows if they're going to have a gaming console in the future? I mean, that's like up in the air, right? Especially with their Asus handheld thing. I think they're entirely going off of cloud streaming type gaming. And that might even mean like, a few AI implements in there here and there. But I think in terms of like hardware, downloading games, I think they're going wholly digital catalog entirely. And they're not even making games anymore. I mean, I can't even tell you what they're making now. Fable, that game, no, it's probably not the same pedigree as like Fable 2 or 3. So I don't even think there's going to be a reason to even like play it or anything like that. Gears of War, that is a big hurdle. And we've already seen how the fumbled Halo, which brings us to our next point. Xbox heads leaving Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond. I mean, you know, to say somebody had a great career, sure, right? But stated leaving the company is, pretty deplorable. Definitely happened around the Xbox One era, right? I think having this big TV box always online, requiring maybe like TV connections, and then like not having to have all the games on one console. I think it really just hurt the franchise, hurt everything for Microsoft. It's definitely insane to say of what's happening here for, that brand because they're getting a whole new person, their background in AI, but they want to say things like, we're focusing on bringing Xbox back. I think Xbox is done. I think Xbox is going to be turned into just Game Pass. Game Pass is going to be like the big online digital service, and it's probably the only real competitor that we're going to be seeing to Steam, which is insane. These companies, they're focused on things that nobody wants. Gamers want to be able to play the old games that came out 10, 20 plus years ago on modern hardware and want new, fresh games that feel like they're an evolution of the gaming industry, whether it's gaming hardware, software, whether it's just innovative mechanics. They want to feel like they're playing the next step, the next level. To caveat that, there's a lot of games out there that are made that aren't like triple A. They have to be the biggest three action open world game with the best visuals. We're not looking for like Crimson Desert or anything like that. I think that there's tons of room for games like, you know, Absalom. That's a simple beat 'em up, pretty fun, definitely worth a few runs, and you don't play it, you know. And I think that a few other like small term single player games, I think we talked about it before, like the supermarket game that I talked about for Switch. I think that those small time games, they definitely deserve a lot of love. And maybe it's just me, but it seems like there isn't as big a focus on those smaller games now. I mean, Xbox Arcade, that's gone. Like Xbox Arcade gone. And to see that like games came out of Xbox Arcade, like Super Meat Boy, Castle Crashers, to see that kind of environment just like fizzle out, just dissolve and disappear, vanish from gaming is sad. The AAA games, they are what bring in like a mass amount of people, but we're talking about like the people who maybe game like maybe one or two a year. But I'm talking about game across the board. I'm trying to play every single game. I'm trying to promote every single game. I want, if it's a game that's going to be made or coming out, I want it to be promoted. I want it to be, heralded as a good game. Games should come out if they're a good game. I mean, we shouldn't be talking about games coming out and they're being bad. We've seen that in the past. But games what he wants. I think a God of War live service game definitely wasn't there. And we've heard reports of things like Last of Us live service game. There's our Horizon live service game coming up. To me, it is deplorable to see that there's such a focus on these mechanics and tools and things in game, these things that are meant to like make you buy or spend money to buy cosmetics and things that to always make it so like you're doing a community thing and you're always playing online with people. Like there needs to be real real acknowledgement that there are people who like to play those social always online games, whether it's just a team based game or a co-op game or some massive thing like an MMO. And there's just people who just want those simple single player story experiences. And there are a lot of games that, you know, muddy the waters with those kind of services. Like Assassin's Creed is one of the franchises that definitely lean a little too far in its game as a service type storefront, you know, content that it had. I think a series that gets a good pass is fighting games. I think fighting games is totally fine to pay a little extra money for cosmetic stuff, maybe even a few DLC characters and stages, right? But when it comes in terms of like things affecting the game, I think there's a lot of things in other video games where it's definitely been apparent. And so, when we talk about the massive amount of people who would want to play these online service games. Sometimes you just want to play a game from start to finish and done with it. Any of the God of Wars. Nobody, I mean, specifically me, like I wouldn't go back play them for any harder difficulty or like that. But if it came to like battle pass or anything like that, I wouldn't even dream of it. I wouldn't do that. You know, Honest. It's in the thing that we are in a gaming Armageddon because it seems that like everything's being turned up upside its head and nothing is really being done in like what you would think would be the proper way or the smart way to do things done. You know, laying off a company and you announce that you have projects in development. I mean, I'm sure we've seen it before from, the Xbox side and maybe even the Nintendo side to a degree. But I have no faith in a remake trilogy if it's, you know, being made by a massive multi-million dollar company like Sony and they're just laying off 70 people and not being like, hey, we have this gotta budget. We're just gonna put you on there. You guys are gonna help out with at least something. At least something, which is insane to say. Now, Xbox is one thing. That's a little more of like a hierarchical thing. We'll be seeing changes from that far further into the future. Not really right now. I don't think they're gonna have any kind of game catalog this year to even like, be heralding or be about or anything. Sony, they have obviously a few games in their lineup that kind of care about Soros and kind of the Marvel fighting game, but really that they don't have anything like even worth being excited for. So that's basically it. When you think about the big three, Xbox is changing their loop. Sony is just laying off people while they still announce remakes, remasters. I think that side is deplorable. However, we do need to preface this with one last thing. There is one silver lining to this week's of gaming news that I think is amazing. And that's the return of Pokemon Leaf Green and Fire Red, which I'll say it, too late. It's too late. It's not worth anything. If nobody wants it. These ports, they're only good for two things. They are good for the people who already played the game, they're big fans, they will play on new accessible hardware. Pokemon, this particular Pokemon game has not been available since the Game Boy. And then there's people who haven't played the game yet. So like, you know what? You never played Fire Red, Leaf Green. Go right ahead, go play it. Perfect. Worth $20. That's awesome. But as somebody who grew up playing all of the Pokemon games, I mean all of them, right? Pokemon Yellow is my first, Silver, Crystal, Gold, Red, Blue, Fire Red, Leaf Green, Sapphire, Ruby. I played all of those games. And to think that we are in the Switch Nintendo Switch, where they now have the old Pokemon games on there. It's just Fire Red and Leaf Green, mind you. It's only those two. But potentially they won't have Pokemon Home. I mean, I always thought Pokemon Home was really cool when they announced it for the 3DS. And back then, surely everyone was transferring all their Fire Red and Leaf Green Pokemon from those games to Platinum or Diamond and Pearl on the DS, right? And then bringing those games to whatever was on like Pokemon Home with the 3DS, right? XY, right? I think that's what it was. The fact that they don't have any confirmation on Pokemon Home, this makes me feel like this is a waste of an entire waste. Like, why do you even attempt to do that? Why do you even make it? Why are we even winning it? In the past, they've remade these games. Let's Go Pikachu Eevee. That is literally just Fire Red and Leaf Green. So let's not say it's not, but they technically are different games for the most part. And you know, this is a nice way to experience the older graphics, the old game experience of Pokemon, probably the most retro style you can get for a Pokemon game. And for nostalgia's sake, that is something for people for playing it new and fresh for people who've never done it before. That's also awesome. But do I, as a Pokemon fan, want to go back and do that if I know I can't transfer that Pokemon home and bring them to the newer Pokemon games, even though they all like true trash? Do I even want to do it if I don't even know that like Pokemon Yellow and Gold or Silver, Red and Blue won't be compatible in some way? I imagine they will be, but without like hard confirmation of all these games being compatible Pokemon Home, I don't think I ever even want to experience them because I can just download them on ROM and call it a day. It's just the end of the road right there, right? That's just what I have to say about it. There really isn't much else to say about Nintendo with Pokemon. I think they're always managing it not the right way. I mean, $20, $20. That's decent. No bundle pack for both of them. It's pretty insane. And then they have this, massive collector's edition, which is insane. It does it with a physical version of the games. That's insane to me. So that's where we are in the gaming Armageddon. There is not a whole lot of hope or not any light at the end of the tunnel in terms of AAA gaming. I think AA, A, and then just indie developers. I think all of that will thrive in their own way. But when it comes to the big giant franchises that we've literally grown to love in the last 20 years, if they're from the Xbox side or the Sony side, I truly don't think we're going to be seeing a whole lot of them in the future, which is, really, really sad. I mean, there's no World and Elder Scrolls. GTA is we haven't even known anything about that, and people probably waiting for that game to really come out and then promote their games. That might be something that we're probably seeing because that's probably the most anticipated game of all time. Now that Silk Song's gone, I mean Half-Life's there, right? But the deck machine is definitely a game changer for some people. I mean, whether or not you can just download Game Pass straight from machine because it's Windows product or whatever. I mean, that might be awesome in its own way. So kudos Microsoft for still being able to be on that front. Sony doesn't have that. Sony has the PC buy system that we apparently got leaked a few months ago. No word on that. So yeah, it just seems like there's no real hope for AAA gaming or gaming access or just new games, and you're telling me the God of War trilogy remake is the best you have to announce at your first state of play for this year. We'll probably see something a little more in depth in terms of the May time period for Sony, probably for Nintendo, because Dustblood's right. Dustblood's like the only big Nintendo thing that's really shown off since the Switch 2. And yeah, that's basically it. There is a coin pusher game. It's like a roguelite that came out or it's coming out. Go check it out at some point. And Saudi Arabia owns Evo, which is insane to say. I don't think anything's going to change massively. I think obviously some creators and how things are run is could be different, but I hope that it doesn't affect the games that are allowed to be there, with the participants that are allowed to compete in the event, or even just attendees. Right? I hope that none of those three things get affected. The games being able to be played, people going there and celebrating fun games or just gaming in general. As long as it works out, it's all fine. Okay, few more games to talk about because you know we're not really going to be doing a few manga or comics for at least the foreseeable future. I don't have any need or want to read anything right now. It's kind of a lull right now. The gaming stuff is, you know, taking me for a loop. There isn't a lot to really like digest and understand, and we're trying to, wrap our heads around it. Because we want to know where gaming is going. We want to see where video games is going to be led. Absalom is a roguelike fighting game that we started playing. Pretty decent. And really, we're just kind of playing these few games until Resident Evil 9 comes out. It's gonna be a massive for this because after with Ethan games 7 and 8, return to form with some familiar characters. It definitely seems to be the right vibe for Resident Evil, especially when it comes to the evolution of first and third person, the shooter aspect, but also like a few of the melee that they have going on. I'm very intrigued to see where the game combat goes for Resident Evil 9. Other than that, we've been playing through Final Fantasy Tactics, just finishing up, leveling up some jobs, and a big game that we're looking forward to is the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 2, because it only has about 3 games in it, but one of them is one of the most hardest to play Metal Gears out there, Metal Gear 4. So I'm very excited for that. It's going to be insane. We have started to watch Paradise. This show seems awesome. Definitely more of a like political drama, but there's some like real tension here. Like the way that kind of spoon feed information slowly definitely makes the show feel very thrilling so far. And then watched a movie called After Hours by Mark Scorsese. That movie is a fever dream. I mean, it is just wild, wacky. The whole time it's tense and it's like a little mysterious. You really don't know what's going on. I was entirely shocked. So that's pretty much it for this week's recap. There isn't a whole lot else to talk about, but gaming news is kicking off. I think this is going to be an incredible year for gaming, but with what we've now, triple gaming doesn't seem like it's the way to go. It doesn't seem like there's any kind of light at the end of the tunnel for this at all. So anyway, next week we'll probably talk about more games, obviously. Hopefully, cap up some manga, maybe a few comics, but we'll see. Anyway, peace.